You know, when you think about it, there are very few people in all of history who you can say truly built the world we live in now. But one of them, arguably, was Alexander the Great. So today, we're going to dive into the man behind the legend and try to figure out how on earth he did so much, so incredibly fast.
Okay, let's just start with a number, 33. That's how old Alexander was when he died. I mean, think about that. Outside of maybe a few religious figures, can you name anyone who accomplished so much in such a ridiculously short life? It almost doesn't seem real.
And here's what he did with that short time. In a single decade, while he was mostly in his 20s, by the way, he marched an army all the way from Greece to India. He toppled the Persian Empire, which was the superpower of its day, and he basically forged an entirely new world order. The scale and the speed of it, it's just mind-bending.
Which, of course, brings us to the big question. Why do we call him Alexander the Great? It's not necessarily because he was a nice guy. He really wasn't. It's about what he did. So what was the secret sauce? What made this one man so completely unstoppable?
Well, to understand the man, you really have to go back and understand the kid. Alexander wasn't just born great, he was practically engineered for it. He was forged by three incredibly powerful and really ambitious figures in his life.
I mean, just think about this recipe for a legend. First, you've got his dad, Philip of Macedon, a military genius who took these rough Macedonian tribes and turned them into a powerhouse that conquered all of Greece. Then you have his mom, Olympias. She was fiercely ambitious and fed him this idea that he was special, that he was divine. She even spread rumors that his real dad was the god Zeus. And to top it all off, his personal tutor was Aristotle, literally the greatest philosopher on the planet, who filled his head with a love for all things Greek. It was the perfect storm.
So when his father is assassinated, Alexander is suddenly king at just 20 years old. And the Greek city-states that his dad had conquered thought, "Aha, here's our chance. This young kid, he'll be a pushover." Oh, they were about to find out just how wrong they were.
So when the city of Thebes rebels, Alexander's response is swift. And it is absolutely brutal. He doesn't just defeat their army. He razes the entire city to the ground. He makes an example of them. The message shot across the Greek world loud and clear, "If you defy me, you will be erased from existence." Fear became his first great weapon.
All right, so with Greece now terrified into submission, Alexander turns his eyes to his father's lifelong dream, getting revenge on the massive Persian Empire. But how could his tiny army of about 40,000 guys possibly take on a superpower that outnumbered them so badly? Okay, this story right here perfectly sums up how this guy thought. There was this ancient, impossible to untie knot, and a prophecy that said whoever could undo it would rule all of Asia. So Alexander takes one look at it, realizes the normal way is a dead end, so he just pulls out his sword and slices it in half. Problem solved. It's this brilliant example of his bold, outside-the-box thinking, and it was amazing propaganda. The story spread like wildfire, cementing this idea that he was a man of destiny.
But it wasn't all just clever PR stunts. He had a killer piece of military tech. The heart and soul of his army was the phalanx. The best way to think of it is like a human tank. It's this super dense block of soldiers, locking their big shields together with these incredibly long spears poking out.
So why did this work so well? Because it perfectly countered what the Persians did best. The Persians loved to use cavalry charges and just blot out the sun with arrows. But a cavalry charge would just break against that wall of shields and spears. And against the arrows, the soldiers could lift their shields and form a kind of protective shell. You put that technology in the hands of his battle-hardened veterans, and his army became a cheat code. It was almost unbeatable on an open field.
And then there was just his sheer, unbelievable determination. The guy would not quit. Take the city of Tyre. It was an island fortress. Everyone thought it was impregnable. So what does Alexander do? He spends 7 months building a half-mile-long bridge out to the island just so he could roll his siege towers up to their walls. It was an engineering masterpiece nobody thought could be done. And after he finally took the city, he was brutal. He massacred the men and sold the women and children into slavery. Genius and brutality always hand in hand with him.
But as he kept conquering, something started to shift inside Alexander. The whole mission, it changed. It went from being about simple revenge and conquest to something much bigger, something visionary.
And it really seems like Egypt was the turning point. When he got there, he didn't act like a conqueror. He showed respect for their religion, their culture. So the Egyptians, in return, didn't treat him like an invader. They literally crowned him pharaoh and declared him the son of their main god, Amon-Ra. And that experience, being treated not just as a king, but as a living god, that seems to have planted a seed for a totally new idea.
And that big idea is what we now call Hellenism. His vision totally changed. It wasn't about just forcing Greek culture on everyone anymore. His new dream was to create a hybrid culture, to fuse the best parts of Greek, Persian, Egyptian, and other cultures into something brand new, and maybe even better.
And he wasn't just talking about it, he was doing it. He started dressing in Persian clothes, he kept local Persian nobles in charge of their territories, and then, and this must have been just wild for his soldiers to see, he staged a massive wedding where he had thousands of his own soldiers marry Persian women all at once to literally merge the two people together.
But here's the thing. This grand world-uniting vision, it created a huge problem. Because the very men who had fought and bled to conquer the world for him, well, they wanted no part of it. A massive rift started to open up between Alexander and his own army.
I mean, the disconnect was huge. You've got his army, and they're looking at their tough warrior king wearing silks and perfumes and thinking he's going soft. They've got their loot, they've been fighting for years, they just want to go home. They still see him as their Macedonian commander. But then you have Alexander, who's thinking, I'm uniting the world. We have to march to the very ends of the earth. And he's starting to really believe he's not just a man anymore, but a living god. And it all finally came to a head in India. After years and years of non-stop marching and brutal fighting, his army just had enough. They flat out refused to go any further. For the very first time, Alexander's ambition ran into a brick wall it couldn't smash through: his own men. He had no choice but to turn back.
So he turns back, and not long after he gets to Babylon, he gets sick, and then he dies. He leaves behind this colossal empire with no plan, no heir. So what on earth happened to the world that he built?
Well, the short answer is it completely fell apart. I mean, almost instantly. It just descends into total chaos. His top generals immediately start fighting each other for pieces of the pie. The guy who is supposed to hold it all together gets assassinated, and within about 13 years, Alexander's wife and his young son are both murdered. His bloodline is just gone.
So his dream of a unified world? Nope. It gets carved up like a turkey by his top generals, the guys we call the Diadochi, or the successors. Ptolemy snags the best prize, Egypt. Seleucus takes the old Persian heartlands. Cassander gets Greece. The United Empire was replaced by decades of war between these guys. So this brings us back to the big question, right? If his political empire was such a complete and total failure, what is his legacy? His empire didn't last a single day past his death, but his idea, that idea of Hellenism, of a world where Greek art and language and philosophy blended with the rich cultures of the East, that didn't just survive, it exploded. It flourished for centuries, and it laid the cultural foundation for the Roman Empire and ultimately for the entire Western world. The empire of land vanished, but the empire of the mind, that changed everything.